Space. Maddie here in the state. January 4th, 2026. We often hear phrases such as, what state are you in? Mental state, state of mind, nation state. We use the word constantly, yet rarely pause to understand what a state truly is. Etymologically, the word state comes from the Latin status, meaning a way of being, position, or condition. Status derives from the verb stare, meaning to stand, to remain, to be sustained. A state, then, is the way something sustains itself, the manner in which something is, the condition from which something exists. And here lies the key: a state is not something fixed. It is a configuration, a point of equilibrium, a specific form that something adopts at a given moment. Water can exist in a liquid, solid, or gaseous state. A human being can exist in a particular state of consciousness. And a society can organize itself as a state with laws, structures, and forms of coexistence. All of these states share one thing in common: they're a reflection of how energy is ordered internally. The state of being. A state of consciousness is the way being sustains itself. It is the internal configuration from which it perceives, feels, and acts. When the mind is ordered, emotion calibrated, and action aligned, the being enters a state of coherence. From that coherence, it can co-create its reality. When the mind is scattered, emotion agitated, and action disconnected, the being enters a state of confusion. From that confusion, it can only react to what the world presents. The difference between these states is not moral. One is not good and the other bad. The difference is functional. One state allows creation, the other allows only survival. States reflect the state of being. Here is what matters most: what happens within each individual also happens collectively. The states we know, countries, nations, territories, are the external reflection of the collective state of consciousness of the people who inhabit them. Their laws reflect how that consciousness understands order. Their structures reflect how that consciousness organizes power. Their economies reflect how that consciousness values exchange. Every nation-state is the visible manifestation of a collective internal state. This is why, when the internal state of being changes, the external state of the world changes as well. And that is exactly what is happening now. The current state, a critical transition. Humanity is undergoing a critical transition. In recent decades, we have developed technologies capable of amplifying our mental capacities, reorganizing the global economy, modifying living matter, and extending our presence beyond Earth. We have artificial intelligence that can process information faster than any human brain. We have communication networks that instantly connect billions of people. We have the ability to edit genes, create synthetic life, and manipulate the very structure of matter. Yet, this external advance has not been matched by an equivalent maturation of consciousness. Technology is running. Consciousness, in many cases, is barely walking. This mismatch is not merely philosophical. It is an evolutionary risk. The technology, consciousness imbalance. The problem is simple yet profound. Without a clear inner compass, every tool we create can amplify both our wisdom and our shadows. The same technology that can connect humanity can fragment it. The same tool that can educate can manipulate. The same system that can liberate can enslave. And this is precisely what we are witnessing: a humanity with immense technological power and a consciousness that does not yet know how to hold it. We can communicate instantly with anyone on the planet, yet we feel increasingly alone. We have access to more information than at any other moment in history, yet we are more confused. We have more tools for connection, yet we are more disconnected from ourselves. Why? Because technology amplifies the state of consciousness from which it is used. Used from coherence, it amplifies coherence. Used from confusion, it amplifies confusion. At this moment, most of humanity is using advanced technologies from a confused state of consciousness. the poison of confusion. There is a poison in human consciousness. It is not biological. It is perceptual, a flaw in the mental code that generates mirages, confusion, rigid dogmas, polarization, and loss of access. This poison has many faces. Religious poison traps the past in a single interpretation. It freezes the mind in one light and blinds it to the full spectrum. It turns mystery into dogma and the path into control. Ideological poison divides reality into irreconcilable camps: good versus evil, us versus them, my truth versus your lie. In that division, the capacity to see the whole is lost. Technological poison saturates the electromagnetic field, distorts the pineal gland, and disrupts the orientation of iron in the blood. 5G, satellite networks, the constant noise of non-biological signals, all of this interferes with the human body's natural navigation system. The result is a disoriented humanity, without access, without direction, without the ability to distinguish medicine from poison, coherence from confusion, creation from reaction. What state are we in? This is the fundamental question. If we're honest, most of us live in a state of sophisticated survival. We have homes, jobs, technology, comforts, but internally, we still react to the world from fear, anxiety, control, competition, and distrust. We continue to organize our lives as if resources were scarce, as if the other were a threat, as if the only way to win were for someone else to lose. This is reflected in nation-states, in power structures, in economies, in wars, in borders, in laws that separate, control, and limit. All of this is the external reflection of an internal state based on fragmentation. And as long as we remain in that state, every technology we create will only amplify fragmentation. What a new state of consciousness is. A new state of consciousness is not an idea. It is not a philosophy. It is not a spiritual movement. It is not a religion. It is an experience, a way of being in the world. It is the moment when the I, the individual, human, conditioned experience, integrates with the I am, the universal, transcendent vision that connects with the whole. When the I and the I am enter into dialogue, a third point emerges: the universal mind, the third I, the capacity to perceive unity within diversity, to recognize patterns, to find meaning, to co-create from coherence. A new state of consciousness means moving from reaction to creation, no longer responding to the world from fear, but from clarity, no longer merely surviving, but creating, moving from competition to collaboration, understanding that resources are not scarce when they circulate, that abundance comes not from accumulation, but from flow, that the other is not a threat, but a mirror. Moving from fragmentation to integration, letting go of irreconcilable opposites, good or evil, light or darkness, science or spirituality, and beginning to integrate, to hold creative tension, to see the full spectrum. Moving from control to trust, releasing the need to control everything and learning to trust the process. Letting go of grasping and learning to flow. Ceasing resistance and beginning navigation. This is the new state. And it is not learned. It is activated, lived, sustained. Why this is the key to everything. This new state of consciousness is the key to what comes next. It is the engine, the center, the very reason for this project. Without a new state of consciousness, everything else is repetition, more of the same under different names. We can create new technologies, but if we use them from the same state of confusion, they will only amplify confusion. We can create new organizations, but if we structure them from the same fragmented state, they will only reproduce fragmentation. We can speak of change, evolution, and transformation, but if we continue operating from the same internal state, the change will be cosmetic. True transformation can only come from a change of state. And for that change to be real, it must be sustained. It must manifest. It must take form. How a new state is sustained. A new state of consciousness requires three elements to be sustained. First, narrative. Stories that organize the mind, explaining where we come from, what broke, how it is repaired, and where we are going. Narrative opens possibilities, dissolves mirages, and reveals that other ways of perceiving reality exist. Second, experience. Moments in which body, emotion, and presence align, when consciousness ceases to be an idea and becomes a way of living. Experience calibrates, activates, and ensures that change is not only mental, but total. Third, space. Physical places, structures, systems, and technologies that support this way of living in a stable manner. Space gives consciousness a body. It allows it to become not a fleeting experience, but a way of life. Without these three elements, a new state of consciousness remains a fantasy. The seed of the state. And here comes the question, where is the seed of a new state planted? The answer lies in the origin, in the place where it was done once before, where it was understood that consciousness can transform matter, that space can order frequencies, that temples can sustain states of perception. That place is Egypt, more specifically the Nile, and even more specifically Aswan. The Nile, where life is born. The Nile is not just a river. It is the backbone of one of the oldest civilizations on Earth. It is where it was first understood that water is life, that the cycle of floods mirrors the cycle of death and rebirth, that black earth, the fertile silt, is the substance from which civilization is built. This is why Egypt was called Kemet, the Black Land. From this comes the word alchemy, alchem, the transformation of matter. Alchemy is not merely the conversion of metals into gold. It is the conversion of matter into consciousness, the elevation of the dense into the subtle, the transformation of mud into temple. This is precisely what was achieved in Egypt thousands of years ago. Spaces were built that sustained states of consciousness, geometries were designed to order frequencies, and systems were created that allowed inner transformation to manifest externally. Aswan, the womb of the Nile. Aswan, in southern Egypt, is the point where the Egyptian Nile is born. It is the threshold, the portal, the womb where the river flowing from the heart of Africa begins to shape life. The White Nile and the Blue Nile meet in Sudan. Nubia and Kush are the creative womb, the place where humanity's oldest cultural mestiçage was gestated. Aswan is the point where that gestation becomes birth. That is why Aswan is the place of the seed, of beginnings, of the point where the invisible becomes visible. Why return to the origin? Returning to Aswan is not nostalgia. It is not spiritual tourism. It is not historical romanticism. It is recognition of the pattern. It is understanding that if we wish to plant the seed of a new state of consciousness, we must plant it in the womb, in the place where life is conceived, where it has already happened once and can happen again. Aswan is that place. There, in southern Egypt, on the banks of the Nile, the first physical seed of this new state will be planted, a space where the alchemy of consciousness can manifest, where inner transformation can be sustained in external form, where narrative, experience, and space converge. Because every state requires a territory, a point of origin, a place from which its way of being unfolds into the world. And that place is Aswan. That place is the heart of the Golden Triangle. Welcome to the state of consciousness.